Hey, I'm Garrett, and for Hallie, we are expecting an update from Grady Hospital in Atlanta any minute now on patients still being treated after a deadly shooting this afternoon. Right now, there is a desperate search for a dangerous suspect who shot and killed one person and injured 4 other people, putting the city on basically a lockdown. The police say this is an active search with multiple jurisdictions working together to find the suspect. A shelter-in-place order has been lifted, but they're asking everyone to stay out of the area and be on the lookout. So here's what we know right now. There are at least 5 victims. 1 person was pronounced dead on the scene. Of the 4 others, 3 are in critical condition, 1 in stable condition. All of them are adults, and we don't yet know their identities. The suspect here is still on the loose. Police say he's armed and dangerous. Do not approach him. They released these photos of the suspect. He is 24 years old. On the left, you can see a surveillance photo of him today wearing a dark gray hoodie and a crossbody bag. This all happened inside the waiting room at a medical center around noon today. The suspect apparently there for an appointment with his mom. You see the location here. It's called Northside Medical Midtown in the heart of Atlanta. The shooter then carjacked a vehicle and fled the scene. He may or may not still be in that same car. What we don't know tonight is the motive. We'll be going now to that presser at Grady Hospital. This is Dr. Jansen. He's the chief medical officer at Grady Hospital in Atlanta. Let's listen.
Shooting this afternoon. 4 patients were transported by Grady EMS to our trauma center. At the present time, 1 is still in the operating room. The other patient is coming out of the operating room. We have 1 patient who had a procedure in interventional radiology, which was completed. They will have additional studies done, and 1 patient remains stable in the trauma center.
Can you explain what interventional radiology means?
Sure. When you certainly have certain types of injuries, particularly vascular injuries, sometimes we're able to go to radiology rather than the operating room to repair that injury or take care of it. So it's still an invasive procedure. It's usually done under anesthesia, but it is in a different area of the hospital, not in the main operating room.
Earlier today,
Sure. So we had 4 people brought in by EMS. Of those, 1 is still in the operating room, probably the most seriously injured. Another patient just got out of the operating room and is doing well. We had a 3rd patient who had a procedure in interventional radiology, and they will have to have additional procedures to follow up. And then the final patient is still in the trauma center, probably does not require surgery and is doing well.
Were they shot multiple times? Can you talk about where and how they were shot?
Well, I don't know how many times each one was shot. Really, because of patient confidentiality, I don't want to get into the nature of the wounds. I think that would be a little unusual.
Were any of these cases particularly challenging for the surgeons?
Well, 2 of them were particularly serious, the ones that went to the operating room. And the one in the interventional radiology was in critical condition, too. So all 3 of those are very serious injuries.
And can you once again describe what would make you go to the radiology versus the regular trauma?
If it is primarily an injury to the blood vessels, we're frequently able to take care of that in interventional radiology as opposed to having to open the patient up in an operating room. Interventional radiology is where you go in through the blood vessels using special catheters and are able to take care of the injury that way.
Can you talk about the flow of patients, maybe not specifically with this case, but the flow of patients coming into the ED and then moving throughout the hospital to ORs?
Right. So in this particular case, as I said, Grady EMS brought all 4 patients here. They arrived within 20, 30 minutes of each other. We were already prepared in the trauma center. We had trauma surgeons, nurses, all the staff ready. So as soon as they came into the trauma center, they were put into a trauma room and were treated immediately. 2 of those were taken immediately up to the operating room. We had the operating rooms open and ready, so they went directly from the emergency department to the operating room. The other one went straight from the emergency room to the interventional radiology suite. None of them were delayed by more than any time at all because we were ready for them immediately.
For the patients still in the operating room, how long has that surgery been?
It's been going on a number of hours. I don't know, it's probably about 3 or 4 hours.
Were all 4
more of them shot during as well, gunshot?
Yes, they were all gunshot wounds.
And you mentioned earlier this afternoon that there were at least 2 families here. Have these
Yes.
families arrived?
I haven't checked back to the emergency department to see. Hopefully they have arrived.
So it's fair to say that there's some
Pardon?
critical
Yes.
And the 4th, 3 are critical,
The fourth is stable. Right.
Can you talk about the next steps, what these next few hours look like for
Yeah.
the medical team to take care of
Right.
them?
So obviously we've got to finish the surgery on the one patient who's still in the operating room. They will go to the surgery intensive care unit. The other patient who finished surgery will go to the intensive care unit. The one who went to the interventional radiology suite is in the intensive care unit. So all 3 of those are either in the intensive care unit or will be going there afterwards because they are still critically ill. They will be treated by the trauma surgeons who staff the critical care units.
And you said earlier that you were totally prepared for this. Did everything go smoothly from the hospital and everything as far as responding?
It went incredibly smoothly, and I cannot be more proud of the performance of all of the staff at Grady. From the surgeons, we had EVS ready, so we had everyone there. We had chaplains ready to deal with the patients and their families. So by the time they arrived, we were fully staffed. We had empty rooms waiting. It was absolutely seamless. I cannot be more proud of the way Grady handled this.
Thank you, guys. That's it for now. We'll keep you updated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jansen.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring in Katie back on the ground in Atlanta. Katie was monitoring this press conference. She's been covering this story for us since it broke. And Katie, we heard that update from Dr. Jansen there. 1 victim in the operating room, 3 others being treated. 1 person is dead. Walk us through what we learned there and what you're seeing on the scene where you are.
Well, it sounds, Garrett, from the sounds of that press conference, that it's still a pretty fluid situation with those patients. It sounds like 3 are still in critical, 1 is unstable. But I think obviously the big news here on the ground in Atlanta is the search, which continues, which started, at around 12 o'clock today, and just being here on the ground as police were canvassing this area and sort of grid searching from air on the ground with SWAT teams everywhere. It was absolutely surreal to see all of these apartment buildings and all of these businesses sort of under the stay-in-place order, nobody leaving, standing at the glass windows, looking out, trying to see what was going on. It was quite a scene here for a while until police had become confident that the suspect was no longer in this area. The reason they say they were confident is because they believe he's responsible for a carjacking that happened close in time to the shooting and happened close in location to the shooting. It was just about a block away. It was actually the street that sort of connects the hospital to the highway. So they believe that he did carjack a vehicle. They have since recovered that vehicle and are probably trying to extract clues from it, but have not apprehended the suspect. So that is the search as it stands right now. The mayor and the police chief coming out and asking the public for their help, releasing the identity, releasing the photo and all the information they have on the suspect, asking the public to call in information and to be on alert, offering a $10,000 reward for any information that could lead to the apprehension of Deon Patterson. So that is where it stands now in Atlanta, but obviously a lot of people are still watching and waiting to see where this is going to go.
All right, Katie Beck, thank you so much. And obviously, as we get more news tonight, we'll be coming back to you, I'm sure. From a manhunt starting now to a manhunt that's ending. You're about to see the mugshot of the man accused of executing 5 people, including a 9-year-old boy, finally caught after a 4-day search spanning 3 Texas counties that involved over 250 officers. You see Francisco Oropeza here being taken into custody, caught in a small town about 15 miles west of where this shooting happened. Police say they found him under a pile of laundry in a closet, tipped off by someone who called into the FBI's hotline. He's now being held on $7.5 million bond, officially charged with those 5 murders. The sheriff calling him a coward.
He is behind bars, and he will live out his life behind bars for killing those 5.
And Oropeza is not the only person in custody tonight. Divamara Nava as well, connected to these crimes. Why does Nava matter? Well, she may be Oropeza's wife. Priscilla Thompson is in Cold Spring, Texas for us tonight. And Priscilla, what do we know about the relationship between these two and why Nava's locked up as well?
Yeah, Garrett. So officials here have identified her as his wife. And what we know is that originally authorities had said that she had been cooperating, but she was found to be at that home with Oropesa when he was arrested. And so she is now charged with a felony for hindering apprehension of a known felon. She's being held on a $250,000 bond. And we saw her in court earlier today at her arraignment, where we learned a little bit more information. According to that arraignment, she told authorities that Oropesa arrived at the home at around 1 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, that he showered, that she went and got him donuts, and that she delivered a message to his cousin asking if they could help him get to Mexico. And we know that the cousins refused, and then a short time after that, hours after that, he was ultimately apprehended by police. And there's also a third person in jail today in connection with all of this, and that is Domingo Castilla. He is in jail here in San Jacinto County on a marijuana charge, but the district attorney says he does expect more charges to come, saying that Castilla may have helped the suspect flee on the night of these murders. Garrett?
Priscilla, when we talked 24 hours ago, it seemed like the community, the police, nobody had a lot of hope for an arrest here. That changed very quickly. What happened? Was it that cousin refusing to take him to Mexico? What do we know about the kind of change in fortunes in this case?
Yeah, Garrett, it could very well be. All we know is that the FBI says they got a call into their tip line at around 6 o'clock Central Time, and a little over an hour later, we saw U.S. Marshals, Texas Department of Public Safety, and also the Border Patrol tactical team descend upon that home. They searched that home, and they found him hiding in that closet under that laundry, and they were able to apprehend him with no incident, bring him here to the prison. And we also learned from officials that earlier this week on Monday, when that search happened, there was an alleged sighting. There were schools that had to be shut down, dismissals delayed because of this sighting. We now know that officials did have eyes on Oropesa during that time, but they lost him. But that is what made them believe that he was in that neighborhood. Garrett?
That's fascinating. So we are getting more information from police tonight, which is good, because I know you were in that frustrating kind of media blackout for part of the day yesterday. But some of the questions I think we still need answers to: how did this guy, who was not a U.S. citizen, get a gun in this country? Why did it take so long to find him, although you sort of touched on that? And why this 911 response took as long as it did? Are we getting any more clarity on any of those issues?
Yeah, so the sheriff was asked about the issue of how this suspect obtained that gun, and he said that he probably bought it secondhand from someone. That was the best guess he had as to how that suspect got that gun. And as to your second question about the 911 calls, the sheriffs and authorities were also asked about that, and they effectively said that, look, this is a very rural area. We're dealing with an understaffed police force. They said it takes about a half hour to get from here to that crime scene, and that there was also an officer who was already out on an aggravated robbery case, and so he had to wrap that up and very quickly get deployed to this scene. And so they acknowledge that it did take some time. They want to look at the logs to be able to identify exactly what time they were able to get there or how long it took to get there, but they are acknowledging the challenges of working in this very large rural area and having to cover that with a limited number of deputies, Garrett.
Yeah, it makes sense. Priscilla Thompson has been on this story for us for the weekend. Thank you. And tonight, the Pentagon is announcing that it'll be giving Ukraine more assistance to push back against Russia. We're talking about lots of ammunition, but no drones. It comes as the State Department says it's aware, but can't confirm a stunning accusation from the Kremlin today that Ukraine tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin overnight with a drone strike. The Kremlin made this claim without actually providing any evidence, but they say their defense systems destroyed 2 drones. You see here, this video right here, the explosion, bang, on social media, shows an object exploding over the Kremlin today. Ukraine's denying any involvement in this, and the Dutch government says President Zelensky is expected to speak in The Hague tomorrow about peace and justice for Ukraine. Listen to this from Zelensky a little earlier today.
We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our territory. We are defending our villages and cities.
Kyiv says this whole incident is just an excuse for Russia to launch their new attacks on Ukraine, which is ironically kind of what the Kremlin is saying, too. In a statement, they write that Russia reserves the right to, quote, take countermeasures wherever and whenever it deems appropriate. Here in the U.S., the Secretary of State is skeptical, saying we should take anything Russia says with way more than just a grain of salt. Here's Secretary Blinken in an interview with the Washington Post.
I would take anything coming out of the Kremlin with a very large shaker of salt. So let's see. We'll see what the facts are.
All right, Keir Simmons joins me now. So, Keir, the U.S. says it had no advance notice on if there was any kind of drone attack against the Kremlin by Ukraine. That's according to U.S. officials. The Secretary of State says we'll get the facts here. What facts do we have about how this all went down?
Yeah, well, pretty much just the videos and then the kind of, if you like, the he said, she said of between Kyiv and Moscow. Look, there are those videos and there appear to be multiple videos and they seem to be saying something, but I think there will be, internet sleuths around the world sitting at their computers studying all of this and many reaching different conclusions, just as the West and Russia appear to have done. I mean, it's just filling a little bit of the picture for you. NBC News saw the first of these videos in the early hours of the morning Russian time. Then there was a briefing with the spokesman Peskov from the Kremlin, didn't seem to mention it. And then about 12 hours later at 3 p.m., more videos were posted. And then the Kremlin talked about this as it says, it claims an attempted assassination attempt against Vladimir Putin. I should say, Garrett, there are even those looking at one of those videos, the one that really shows the dome and the object flying towards it, who think that they can see people on the dome, climbing the dome, at the moment when this apparent drone hits it. Now, according to the Russians, there were 2 drones. They were intercepted, as you mentioned, by their systems, their defense systems. But I mean, it's going to raise many questions, including, I guess, how, if that is the case, if this is what happened, how did drones get so close to the Kremlin?
And Keir, you're kind of our resident Kremlinologist here, too. They have obviously made an intentional choice to publicize this attack. They're calling it a terrorist attack. Talk about what that means potentially in this moment in the war. We were something of a stalemate in Bakhmut. Russia has their big Victory Day celebration next week. Can you kind of put that all into context for us?
No, I think there's some good points. I mean, I think the fact that the Victory Parade is set to happen in a few days' time, according to reports, has been scaled down in other parts of the country. Reports from Moscow suggest that there is a lot of tension there. That might be relevant. We don't know why the Kremlin has chosen, if you like, to highlight this attack. It could have said nothing, and potentially there wouldn't be the same kind of headlines around the world. The Kremlin says that President Putin wasn't in the building at the time when this happened, but yet it's calling it an attempted assassination against President Putin. Again, on the other hand, Ukrainians calling all of this a trick. And then that being said, too, there have been assassination attempts inside Russia and successful killings. So, I mean, again, this is Kremlinology. This is I'm not sure we're going to have the answers tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it's still the most interesting story of the day, so I think we're going to keep pounding away on it. Keir Simmons, thank you for your reporting. And we're just now getting a reaction from the markets after the Federal Reserve boosted interest rates by 1/4 point today to 5%. It's the highest rate in 16 years. This makes it even harder for people who want to buy a home or take out a credit card loan. You can see the vibe on Wall Street, not thrilled, with red across the board for the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P. This is now the 10th straight interest rate hike by the Fed since last March. That's the fastest rate bump since Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 came out in theaters in 1980. That's how we like to tell time on this broadcast. And now Fed Chair Jerome Powell says they've got a long way to go to get inflation to his 2% goal, not committing to another rate hike in June or a full-on pause anytime soon.
In light of these uncertain headwinds, along with monetary policy restraint we've put in place, our future policy actions will depend on how events unfold.
All right, Brian Chung's here to break it all down. So, Brian, Powell's comments today, can you translate them all into English? Are we going to see more hikes, and what would that mean for consumers?
Yeah, by the way, 1980, I think Airplane also came out that year. So, another good reference there. But
we'll work that into the next hour.
Yeah,
good.
Exactly. But look, at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve, they did hike interest rates by another 1/4 percentage point. But what it means to average Americans is that those elevated mortgage rates, those elevated credit card rates, which, by the way, are over 20%, so don't miss a payment, will remain high for the foreseeable future. But the good news is that this is all seeming to work on inflation. When you take a look at the yearly rate of inflation, it peaked at around 9% around this time last year, and we've seen that come down to about 5%. But the Federal Reserve really wants to see that somewhere closer to 2%. So the Fed is continuing to raise interest rates because of that. But the real challenge here is that, okay, yeah, it seems like it's having an effect on inflation, but it's also coming at a time of enormous economic uncertainty when you consider we have a debt ceiling debate that could call into question the creditworthiness of this entire country. And then secondly, these bank jitters that we're seeing with regional banks continuing to feel the fallout of the Silicon Bank Valley failure just a few months ago.
These Wall Street analysts always come out with warnings, and we saw one today that caught our team's eye from an investment banker who says we are now at the risk of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the regional banking crisis that you just mentioned. We talked about it yesterday. This idea that, Powell also isn't shying away from gloomy language, talking about the possibility of a recession. What do you make of this idea that we may be in self-fulfilling prophecy here, a vibe session where the data is so confusing, but we're so kind of convinced we're going down this recessionary path that that's where we end up?
Yeah, well, I think, Garrett, it's useful just to define recession in the first place, right? So what a recession would essentially look like in the context of what we're facing would be some substantial uptick in the unemployment rate, because this economy doesn't look good on the inflation side of things, but it does look pretty good on the labor market side of things, where unemployment is at 3.5%. We haven't seen that type of numbers since maybe over 50 years ago. So when we talk about that context, a recession would look like some massive uptick in layoffs, but that isn't happening just now. But if the Federal Reserve, as they're hiking interest rates and as these banks fail, or maybe as the United States gets a little bit closer to a potential default, maybe that actually does tick the unemployment rate up, which could look like a recession. The Federal Reserve is projecting what they call a mild recession. Does that mean 4%, 4.5% unemployment rate? That's something we'll have to watch for.
Mild unless you're one of the people who loses their jobs. Brian Chung, thank you for your reporting on all this. And the Biden administration's top immigration official, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, is announcing a 2-day trip down to the southern border starting tomorrow. That as the U.S. and Mexico are today announcing a new deal in preparation for what's expected to be a massive surge of migrants across our southern border once pandemic-era restrictions, known as Title 42, go away next week. As part of this deal, Mexico is agreeing to accept migrants turned away from the U.S. border, but only if they're citizens of Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, and Nicaragua. At the same time, the U.S. is agreeing to take in 100,000 people from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, but only as long as they have family living legally in the U.S. The preparations are happening as we're seeing these big spikes in illegal migration in recent months, with more than 200,000 so-called border encounters in April alone. That's the most this year. The acting Border Patrol commissioner says they expect to see as many as 10,000 people trying to cross the border every day. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is in El Paso, Texas today. Gabe, I've been watching your stuff here. I've been seeing this area has been hit so hard already. It's clearly going to be hit even harder when Title 42 expires. Talk about some of the scenes you are seeing there on the ground in El Paso and what the situation could be there in a little over a week.
Hi there, Garrett. Well, yes, we were here several months ago, and we saw a large group of migrants here in December and January. But I can tell you what we're seeing now is even more. This line of migrants, you see them here. Good, come on. Sorry. This line of migrants here extends all the way down the street. Not sure what is up with this gentleman walking by. Thought I was saying hi to him, but this is something that I guess he wanted a fist bump hard. I was looking past him, Garrett, but this is, something that we're seeing, just a lot of people. There's just a lot of people up and down this street. Just look and up and down this street. And this is not something we're just seeing on this particular city block. We're seeing several city blocks. And this is something that local officials have been asking for help for quite some time. They say you just don't have the resources to handle all this. So El Paso is under a state of emergency. So is Brownsville, so is Laredo. Earlier today, we spoke with a local business owner who's also a former city councilwoman, and she is very frustrated with the announcement of these 1,500 troops because she says it is too little, too late, and won't really have any impact here at the southern border. Take a listen.
It's really bad right now. I can't imagine it getting worse, but by the numbers, by the looks of it, it's going to get a lot worse. How do we transport these people? How do we shelter them? How do we feed them? And it's very frustrating. No one is helping us.
And so, Garrett, you know, we've been speaking with some of the migrants here, some of the women, a lot of single men here, young adults, but also women and children. One woman from Venezuela told us she had been here for about 10 days, had taken several months to get here from Venezuela. She didn't know what she was going to do with her 10-year-old daughter. But there's so much misinformation here, Garrett. Many of these migrants have been fed misinformation either from relatives in their home countries or from social media or from human smugglers that tell them to come to the U.S. Some of them knew vaguely that something called Title 42 was going to be lifted next week. Others were given conflicting reports on what that might mean. But the bottom line for communities like this across the border, they're already dealing with a huge influx of migrants even before the lifting of these COVID restrictions, Gary.
Well, to that end, Gabe, and we talked about this new deal here in Washington between the U.S. and Mexico. There's a bunch of other new actions coming from the Biden administration trying to prepare for this moment. I mean, from the folks you talk to, from your expertise there on the border, how effective do you think any of these new steps will be in heading off this predicted surge over the next couple of weeks?
Right. Well, some of the migrant advocates we've been speaking with say they don't anticipate to make a whole lot of difference other than they say that it might create an even bigger humanitarian crisis across the border in Mexico. For them, they say it's essentially an extension, the way they see it, of the previous administration's Remain in Mexico policy. Some of them argue that they are surprised and disappointed, at least some of these migrant advocates are, that the Biden administration's policies are now starting to mirror the Trump administration's in some ways. But I think that's an acknowledgement, Garrett, and you know this working on the Hill, that there is just no easy answer here. And multiple administrations from both parties are just struggling to find out any reason, any way to be able to handle with this increasing number of illegal border crossings that has increased over the last several months, Gary.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you for your reporting on this issue. And now from El Paso to Serbia, where police say that the capital city there, a 7th grader who opened fire on an elementary school, killing 8 children and a security guard, had been planning the attack for a month and apparently had a list of kids he wanted to kill on his desk at home. It happened here in Serbia's capital city of Belgrade. And here's what we know so far. The suspect, a 13-year-old student at the school, is in custody and will be placed in a psychiatric institution, according to that country's president. Officials say the boy brought 2 of his dad's guns to school and 4 Molotov cocktails. Now, both the boy's parents have also been arrested. What we don't know yet is the motive in this shooting. 6 other kids and a teacher were also hurt. The country has announced a 3-day mourning period in the aftermath of this tragedy, the likes of which this European nation hasn't seen in years. Hallie joins me now. And Hallie, what's the latest we're learning tonight? There had been some reports that the suspect might not even be held criminally responsible because he's so young.
That's right, Garrett. The law in Serbia stipulates that a minor under the age of 14 can't be held criminally responsible for their actions. And Serbia's president has said that the government should take into consideration lowering the age of accountability from 14 to 12 because he says the shooter may have known that he was too young to be prosecuted before he embarked on this rampage. We've also learned from Serbia's president that the 13-year-old boy who went on this rampage, killing 9 people, has been placed in a psychiatric institute. He added that the shooting suspect didn't show any remorse for what he did, and that both his mother and father have been arrested, with one or both of them facing criminal charges for their son's actions. And according to Serbia's interior minister, the boy brought the 2 guns from home. The guns belonged to his father, who kept them locked in a safe, which had a code, but obviously the suspected shooter had the code to the safe and managed to get those guns out. And also on a side note, Garrett, we also learned from the French Foreign Ministry that one of the students that was killed in that shooting was also a French national.
Hallie, Serbia is known to have a high level of gun ownership, but mass shootings in there or in the region or, like, frankly, in all of Europe are incredibly rare compared to what we're used to here, right?
That's right. Well, Serbia has a very high level of gun ownership following its conflict with Kosovo in the 90s. A 2018 study found that Serbia has a joint 3rd highest rate of gun ownership in the world, with 39.1 guns per 100 people, according to the Small Arms Survey. But contrary to all of that, they have very strict gun laws, and they've issued amnesties for owners to hand in or register illegal firearms. And statistics show that between 2015 and 2019, only 125 people were killed in firearms-related homicides. 5 people between the ages of 14 and 17 committed gun homicides, and 1 person under the age of 18 was killed in a gun homicide. And unlike the United States, mass shootings in Serbia and the wider Balkan region are extremely rare. The last mass shooting was in 2013 when a Balkan war veteran killed 13 people in a central Serbian village. And the country's education minister said that this latest shooting that happened this morning was the first of its kind in Serbia, and it's really rocked that nation to its core because they're not used to this kind of stuff.
Well, as somebody who covered Uvalde, I'm really feeling for all those folks having to deal with this there tonight. Hallie Ruzzi, thank you so much for your reporting. And coming up, it's an appliance that most people use every day, but now New York is banning it. We will tell you why in the local. Stay with us. National test scores out today show that students' knowledge of U.S. history dropped to their lowest point since this particular test started back in 1994. These history and civics tests are given every 4 years. They're called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, sometimes simply referred to as the nation's report card. The new scores continued a nearly decade-long decline among 8th graders, dropping 9 points since 2014. This all comes as the history curriculum itself is becoming a political flashpoint in the United States, with some states banning books and with debates raging on about issues like how do we talk about race and gender, or how gender identity is taught, all that in the context of our national history. The U.S. Secretary of Education said that the scores, quote, affirm the profound impact the pandemic had on student learning in subjects beyond math and reading. And he called out politicians for censoring educators. Let's bring in Rahima Ellis now on this. So, Rahima, earlier this year, we saw that the scores for math and reading, they also hit almost 20-year lows. The pandemic was largely blamed for that, too. And now we've got these history test scores. Can you just give us a little more detail and context about how bad this situation is and how these things are related, right? I mean, if you can't read well, you probably can't learn history either.
Garrett, you're absolutely right. You know the old saying, reading is fundamental, and it certainly is in terms of our understanding of anything. You can read a word, but if you can't grasp the inner meanings of that word, it becomes very difficult to communicate that sense to people. Take a look at what these history and civic scores turned out to be. We've got a full screen for you. The test results show that a 40% drop in terms of the students who were below basic in history, 40% of them, and 31% of those 8th graders were below basic understanding in civics. This is something that the commissioner who administers these tests say should be of a concern to everyone in this country. Whether you have a child in elementary or middle school or school at all, these children are not always going to be in the 8th grade. Ultimately, they will graduate, and they will be the citizens of tomorrow who will have to make decisions about how our country is run. Garrett?
Yeah, that's right. Future voters. Rahima, this comes at a really divisive time in our country when we talk about how history should be allowed to be taught in classrooms. And I understand you heard from an 8th grade teacher who's walking through some of these concerns.
She really is. And she talked about how it's a daily struggle for her. And one of the struggles, she says, is because she's competing with devices like this. And that is a device that's taking the attention away from what's happening in the classroom and or also leading her children and students to a lot of misinformation. Take a listen to her thoughts on this.
Our country is dependent on having educated people who can think critically and think for themselves and be lifelong learners. So it does worry me that, you know, we're not seeing that critical thinking as much. You know, it's still there, but it's a struggle every day.
The other thing that she pointed out is that it's so difficult to think about doing something on the political structure in terms of changing this, Garrett, and you know that every day being up on the Hill, because studies show that 90% of parents in this country think that their kids are proficient and above, but the scores do not bear witness to that. It's very challenging.
Math doesn't lie. Raheem Ellis, thank you for your reporting on this. I want to get you over now to the 5 things that our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the man who shot and killed 3 people at an Alabama church in June was just sentenced to life in prison without parole. The 71-year-old pleaded guilty to capital murder charges and waived his right to appeal. Officials say they still don't know why he opened fire at a potluck dinner last summer. Number 2, American sprinter Tori Bowie has died, according to her management company. She was a 3-time Olympic medalist and a 2-time world champion in track and field. No cause of death has been given. She was just 32 years old. Number 3, we are learning more about Tucker Carlson's sudden departure from Fox News and the role his texts reportedly played. The New York Times obtained texts he allegedly sent to a Fox producer after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. In them, Carlson allegedly describes watching a video of Trump supporters attacking a protester, calling it, quote, dishonorable and, quote, not how white men fight. The texts were redacted in court filings, and they haven't been confirmed by NBC. We did reach out to Carlson's attorney and Fox overnight, but did not immediately hear back. The Times said a rep for Carlson had no comment. Number 4, exclusive reporting from NBC News. Weight loss company Jenny Craig says it will shut down its operations in the next few days completely. In an email to employees, the company said it was going to close due to its inability to secure additional financing. The company has not responded to requests for comment. And number 5, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is announcing its 2023 inductees. A few surprises on that list: Missy Elliott and DJ Kool Herc, best known for their contributions to hip-hop, signaling that the rock and roll umbrella is expanding. And then there's singer Kate Bush, who finally made it a year after her hit song Running Up That Hill reached the top of the charts. Now, that song was released 40 years ago, but it's seen a resurgence after being used in the hit show Stranger Things. Coming up, we will be right back with an in-depth look at one state's prison system. That is next in The Original. We want to bring you today's Original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping our eye on. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis just signed a bill that will expand the death penalty in Florida to include child rapists. This sets up a likely Supreme Court battle because this new law goes against a 2008 decision stopping states from using the death penalty for child rape if the victim didn't die. Now, this all comes as other states are struggling with executions, including Alabama, which is looking into a new method of carrying out the death penalty after a series of botched executions. Dasha Burns has more.
Alabama's prison system is generating a lot of controversy after trying and failing to execute 2 death row prisoners last year.
I'm gonna keep on walking.
We are here to confront the narrative that everything is okay.
Those botched attempts led to a 3-month pause on execution warrants.
There was an issue around establishing what's called intravenous access.
Some experts and activists say the state's failures on lethal injection amount to torture.
Both of them describe a very terrifying experience.
But Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall disagrees.
Cold-blooded convicted killer complains about the prodding and poking of a small IV line. Really?
Now, with the execution moratorium lifted, death row inmates are more afraid of surviving than they are of dying. Kenneth Smith is convicted of a murder for hire in 1988. On his execution day, Smith says he was strapped to a table for more than 3 hours, sometimes hanging upside down.
This is a free call from an incarcerated individual at Alabama Department of Corrections.
We spoke to one man who lives alongside those survivors, a death row inmate who's a member of the activist group Project Hope to Abolish the Death Penalty. He asked to remain anonymous, fearing retaliation by prison staff.
They didn't kill Kenny physically back there in that death chamber, but emotionally and mentally, they killed him.
Alan Miller was convicted of murdering 3 of his co-workers in 1999, according to court filings. Miller spared not by the courts, but the clock, after the execution team struggled to access his veins and start an IV line, too.
He had a clear view of the death chamber. After he came back, he was in that cell about 3 days, and then he begged them to move him because he couldn't stand to look out the window and see it.
The Alabama Department of Corrections declined NBC News' request for comment. In a letter lifting the moratorium, the Alabama Department of Corrections said it hired more medical personnel, practiced its procedures, and succeeded in asking the state Supreme Court to lift the one-day deadline it had to carry out an execution.
Justice for our families!
Critics say the state should have commissioned an external review.
If the state is saying, just trust us, well, they've not earned that trust.
A majority of Americans support the death penalty, even as some states have trouble carrying it out. Arizona is reviewing its execution process. Idaho recently legalized the firing squad as the state struggles to find the drugs for lethal injections.
There is really no death penalty in Idaho now unless we allow the firing squad.
But back in Alabama, they're exploring other methods too, joining Oklahoma and Mississippi in legalizing death by nitrogen, a method that's never been used before.
This nitrogen protocol, they call it, this is an experimental process.
All a matter of life and death for many inmates sitting on death row across the country. Dasha Burns, NBC News.
And when we come back, we're expecting an update from officials in Cobb County following that Atlantis shooting. We will bring it to you live when it happens. Plus, a big drug maker says it has an experimental medicine that can slow down Alzheimer's, when the FDA could approve it. And stunning dash cam video of an out-of-control car headed right towards a police officer. What happened? Stay with us. It's in the local. We've gotten our hands on a new study that shows a potentially promising Alzheimer's drug may actually slow the progress of the disease for those who have it in its early stages. Data shows an experimental Eli Lilly drug slowing the decline in memory by 35% compared to people who didn't take the drug. Now, that's a pretty big deal for folks who are in that 1 in 9 group, age 65 and older, who battle Alzheimer's daily. But the drug is not without its risks. It can cause brain swelling and bleeding that can be serious and, in fact, even fatal in rare cases. 3 people died in the drug's trial from those side effects. Now, the FDA previously rejected approval of this same drug because they wanted to see more results. Eli Lilly said today it plans to reapply for FDA approval within the next few months. Dr. Natalie Azar joins me now. And, Doc, what would you advise people who are kind of weighing the risks and benefits here? On the one hand, you have Alzheimer's, which is such a terrible disease, and then these high-risk side effects on the other side. Talk about kind of how patients view those things and, frankly, how the FDA might view them.
Yeah, sure, Garrett. I mean, you said it. It's always a risk-benefit analysis for any medication, and I think even more so with something like this. And the reason I say that is that remember that this is a medication that's indicated for individuals with early disease. The benefit was definitely there, but, you know, a lot of people would say that even though there was a 35% slowing in cognitive decline, you know, is that going to be meaningful? It's not going to be a cure. But for anyone who lives with someone who has Alzheimer's or knows a loved one or has a loved one who has it, you know, any sort of, you know, lengthening or prolonging their independence is certainly a useful and a good thing. You know, the data is striking, Garrett, that 1 in 3 adults will die with some form of dementia, including Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's kills more than the combined deaths related to breast and prostate cancer. So it's a devastating disease. And as you said, you weigh the risk and the benefit. There is a potential risk, but I think it's a small risk, and I think it's a risk that most individuals and families would very likely take.
And presumably there's family history elements. I mean, there's a whole lot of other factors at play here. There was this other Alzheimer's drug not that long ago that was subject of a congressional inquiry that found the FDA's approval process on it was, in their terms, rife with irregularities. Why has it been that finding an effective and safe treatment for what's become, as you said, such a common disease, seemingly so hard?
Well, part of it has to do with what is actually the cause of Alzheimer's. The way this medication and some others before it work is via a mechanism called a monoclonal antibody, which actually takes away those amyloid plaques in the brain, which are thought to be, well, are they an innocent bystander or are they actually pathogenic and causing disease? And so we don't exactly, there's so much more and there's so much complexity into what actually causes Alzheimer's that identifying or targeting one thing alone is not going going to necessarily result in the most meaningful outcome. I think the other thing that the FDA really struggled with were the side effects. You know, if there is brain swelling and if there are these little micro bleeds, the majority of people were asymptomatic, but when they aren't, it can be fatal. And so for the FDA, they're kind of weighing this modest improvement and slowing down progression but not curing versus the potential for the side effect. And then the cost. The cost was a huge issue, and it's going to be a huge issue for this. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid won't necessarily cover it for the group who needs it the most.
Makes sense. Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you.
You bet.
Now, NBC covers literally hundreds of stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to them all, well, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going on in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Midwest Bureau, the Labor Department says 2 10-year-olds were found working inside a Louisville McDonald's restaurant unpaid and sometimes until 2 a.m. The franchise operator said they were a night manager's kids and not approved by management. This was part of a broader investigation that found more than 300 kids working at multiple McDonald's locations. 3 franchisees were fined more than $200,000 in total. McDonald's is calling the reports unacceptable. Out of our Southern Bureau, take a look at this video. A Virginia police officer barely escaped a car spinning out on the highway at 120 miles an hour. The car slides across the median, bang, then crashed into another car that was pulled over for a traffic stop. Police say it is miraculous everyone involved had only minor injuries. The driver of the out-of-control car has been charged with reckless driving. And from our Northeast Bureau, New York just became the first state to ban gas stoves in new residential buildings. The law also bans furnaces and propane heating. This goes into effect in 2026 for buildings under 7 stories tall and in 2029 for taller buildings. Still to come, the concerns over copycat versions of some really popular weight loss drugs, why states are cracking down. Tonight, states threatening to crack down on copycat versions of super in-demand diabetes and weight loss drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. More and more states are saying they might take legal action against pharmacies that make or dispense unauthorized versions of these meds. At least 4 states already restrict the manufacturing of these imitation drugs over safety concerns. Regulators in Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, and West Virginia say they're aware that some pharmacies are using a different form of semaglutide, the active ingredient in both Ozempic and Wegovy that's not approved by the FDA. There's been a shortage of drugs like Ozempic for patients with diabetes since last August, according to the FDA. NBC's Berkeley Loveless Jr. has been following this story for us. So, Berkeley, people basically want this drug so badly. They're like picking the lock, and these compound pharmacies are trying to fill the demand. Can you explain first what a compound pharmacy even is? This is not happening at your local Walgreens, right? Like, how does this happen?
Right. So, yeah, compounding pharmacies are actually really important. So they make tailor-made medications for people. So say a person is allergic to an ingredient in a medication or a pain medication, they can essentially take that ingredient out and give it to the patient, and they'll be good to go. They're also allowed to make drugs during a shortage. So a lot of these compounding pharmacies have been making semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy, and offering it to patients for weight loss. But now states have actually been figuring out that some of these compounding pharmacies have actually been using an unapproved form of semaglutide. It's called semaglutide sodium salt, which hasn't been tested by the FDA. And so now that's raising some safety concerns.
And do we know if people are being harmed by this, or are copyright holders being harmed by this, right? Like, is this proven to be dangerous, or is it cutting into profit margins that's driving this crackdown?
Yeah, so we don't know that yet in terms of consumers. So the states didn't disclose if anybody had been harmed by this yet. And so we should know about that in the coming weeks as well. In terms of whether it hurts the company's bottom line, we do know that the only manufacturer of this drug is Novo Nordisk. They're the patent holder for Ozempic and Wegovy. And so this has raised a few eyebrows on how the compounding pharmacies have been able to get access to this drug. Novo Nordisk has said repeatedly that it does not sell this drug to compounding pharmacists. And so it's unclear where compounding pharmacists have actually been getting the drug from, but these medications have been incredibly popular among people. And so now there's some safety concerns, and then also, yes, it could also hit this company's bottom line.
Very interesting stuff. Berkeley Lovelace Jr., thank you for your reporting.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this hour. Our coverage picks up right now. We're coming on the air with another day, another manhunt for a gunman accused of shooting multiple people. This time in Atlanta. One person dead, 4 hurt. A motive? Well, that's up in the air. The suspect is on the loose, and we expect another presser at any moment now. We are live there on the ground. Plus, Ukraine is pushing back hard on this claim from the Kremlin that they tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin, what the Secretary of State is saying about all the conflicting information. And with interest rates at a 16-year high, could we finally see a pause coming? We'll break that down with the Fed chair's comments today and what they mean for your money. Plus, some states are launching a copyright crackdown on knockoff versions of a popular diabetes and weight loss drug. But who's really suffering here, the consumers or the companies? And a top pharma company is hoping its experimental Alzheimer's drug is a game changer for those with that disease. But there are some signs that this one will be different than others they've tried. Well, that's all later in the show. Hey, I'm Garrett. I'm in for Hallie. Any moment now, we're expecting to hear an update from police on the search for a suspect who shot and killed one person and hurt 4 others, putting that city basically on a lockdown. The police there say this is an active search with multiple jurisdictions working together to find the suspect. A shelter-in-place order has been lifted, but they're asking everyone to stay out of the area and to be on the lookout. So here's what we know right now. There are at least 5 victims. 1 person was pronounced dead at the scene, and we just got an update on the 4 others from the hospital where they're being treated. 3 are in critical condition with very serious injuries. 1, in fact, still in the operating room. The 4th victim there is in the trauma center and in stable condition. The suspect in this case is still on the loose. Police say he's armed and dangerous, and you should not approach him if you see him. They released these photos of the suspect, saying he's 24 years old. On the left, you can see a surveillance photo of him today wearing a dark gray hoodie and a crossbody bag. Now, this all happened inside the waiting room of a medical center around noon today. The suspect apparently there for an appointment with his mom. You can see the location pinned on this map. It's called Northside Medical Midtown in the heart of Atlanta. The shooter then carjacked the vehicle and fled the scene. That car was found in the nearby county of Cobb County. SWAT team has been activated there, and we're waiting for an update from the police in that county. One big thing we don't know tonight is the motive. Let's bring in Katie Beck on the ground in Atlanta. She's been covering the story for us all day. And so, Katie, what's the latest on the search for this suspect? We understand, get out of that building, carjack the vehicle, then what?
Yeah, that's right, Garrett. They say shortly after the shooting, 24-year-old Dion Patterson, they believe left the building, carjacked that vehicle, and got out of here. They said they recovered that vehicle, but the search for Patterson continues tonight, putting Midtown Atlanta and the surrounding areas on high alert, asking anyone in the public who's taken note of this surveillance footage and of his picture to be on watch and to contact authorities if they should see him, to not approach this man because he is armed and he is dangerous. Now, earlier today, it was quite a scene here in Midtown Atlanta. This is a really busy area, lots of businesses, lots of retail, lots of condominiums here. And as you know, this whole area was put on a shelter-in-place order by police. There were people actually, inside the lobbies looking out the glass windows, wondering what was going on, how soon they could leave. All of Atlanta kind of came to a standstill for about a 2-hour window of time after police had done an extensive grid search. They lifted that shelter-in-place order, saying they had no more belief that he was in this vicinity, but that they do believe he is somewhere in the greater Atlanta area, which is why they have so many law enforcement agencies now searching for him. So there is a $10,000 reward being offered to the public for any information leading to his arrest. And police say they are hoping that people are going to be calling and giving tips and information as the night goes on.
And do we know anything else about how this got started? The detail about him being in this medical office for an appointment with his mom is fascinating and odd to me.
Yeah, his mom was not injured in this event. We know that. We know she was with him for the appointment. We also know that she is cooperating with authorities, that she is giving them information about her son.
Katie, excuse me, I hate to do this, Katie. I'm sorry. I got to cut you off. This Cobb County police presser is starting right now, so let's listen in.
Cameras. We actually went back and did discover that the vehicle had entered Cobb County. The vehicle has since been recovered by Atlanta PD. So for more information about the vehicle, you need to contact them. Around 12:30, by looking back at some of the cameras, we did spot what appeared to be a suspect in this area, which is why we have such a heavy presence. This was a couple hours after the incident, so this was around 2:30 or so that we actually discovered that the shooter was possibly in the area. So we are still searching right now. We have not had any eyewitness confirmation of the suspect. This has all been video that we have observed from our flock cameras and our real-time crime center. That's the only additional information we have right now. We do believe that he might still be in the area.
So the car that was recovered, where was it recovered, please? Where was the car found?
I believe in a parking garage. The vehicle was recovered in a parking garage on, what's the name of that street again? Heritage Court.
Okay, and where's that? Is that near the Battery?
It is near the Battery.
Is it near a store? Is it near a hotel?
It's a parking deck. It's just near the Battery.
What are flock cameras? Is that
That's an actual trade name, flock. Those are license plate recognition cameras.
The cameras that spotted him, were these security cameras, surveillance cameras on buildings that actually have images of him?
Our real-time, I don't know exactly which cameras. Our real-time crime center has different cameras that come in. They're DOT cameras, flock cameras, and some the flock cameras are owned either by us or by private organizations.
And they captured images in this area?
Images of the vehicle. There were images of him that were seen or recorded at 12:30.
And where is that?
I don't know the exact area, the exact location, but it is in this area. Yes. It's been a lot of time since 12:30. That's the last visual confirmation we have from video. We haven't had any confirmed eyewitness sightings. We've had calls come in, but we have not been able to confirm those eyewitness calls.
Wait, in this carjacking, did he assault the owner of the vehicle that was stolen?
That carjacking happened in Atlanta, so I don't know.
Can you tell us why you cordoned off that area, I'm forgetting the street name. Windy Ridge.
Windy Ridge is right near where the vehicle was located.
Okay, it wasn't because you believed that he was still...
And that was the area that he was spotted.
Okay.
Or on camera. We saw him on camera.
So you're able to confirm the vehicle that you found and was captured in the flock license plate because it wasn't in fact the one that was stolen?
I would defer to Atlanta because I don't know if they have. They actually have possession of the vehicle right now.
Any reports of another vehicle being stolen or seen leaving that area?
We don't have any reports of another vehicle being stolen in the area.
Wait, any reports of shots being fired in the Cobb County?
We had a false alarm call in earlier. I believe it was at 200 Galleria Parkway, but that turned out not to be the case. There were no shots fired.
What was the incident at Campbell Middle School?
Should they still stay inside? What should they do?
Right now, we have not had any confirmed sightings since our own pulling up cameras at 12:30, so we don't know where he might be. We believe he might still be in the area, but we don't have confirmation of that. So right now, just remain vigilant and please call 911. The same message that Atlanta PD has been pushing out, we're pushing out the same message. All of Metro Atlanta, if you see him, he's still considered armed and dangerous, please call 911. And I had a question right here.
There was some sort of situation at Campbell Middle School. Are you able to speak to that? There was a lockdown for a time. Is that unrelated?
That incident at Campbell was totally unrelated to this.
Was it a white truck or a silver truck?
I'm not 100% sure on the color. And there was a question right here.
Was anything found in the car?
I understand that you have not caught the suspect, but given the fact that the victims were 4 women, 1 dead, is there any motive? Is there any kind of hint at a motive?
I can't respond to an incident that happened in Atlanta's jurisdiction. I don't know anything about that incident other than what's been reported.
Was anything found in the car?
Once again, the vehicle was turned over to Atlanta Police.
Sergeant, did you get any reports of any carjacking since the carjacking in Midtown in this area?
No, I think that was a miscommunication that went out earlier. We did not have a carjacking here. No.
To clarify, you said that the flock cameras, is it accurate to call those traffic cameras?
No, they're license plate recognition cameras, but our real-time crime center doesn't just rely on those cameras. The cameras that we actually saw the suspect with were Department of Transportation, DOT cameras, which are part of our real-time crime center.
Flock cameras, they notify you that they've picked up on a license?
Only if the information is input into the system. Like I said, we were actually alerted to this 2 hours after it was actually occurred, so we were a little bit behind because that's when we got the alert.
Alerted to it 2 hours after.
Yes.
The footage saw him around 12:30.
Yes,
And you guys
he was picked up. On camera around 12:30, but we didn't see it until 2:30.
And that was a DOT camera?
Yes, that's through our real-time crime center. Yes.
I'm sorry, could you tell us where that DOT camera was? Do you know?
I don't know which camera it was now.
Was he actually seen on camera?
We saw it. We don't have an individual verification from an eyewitness, but he is on camera. Yes.
Is there
Not the
Vehicle and him.
Is there a shelter-in-place order in effect in any parts of Cobb right now?
We have not issued any shelter-in-place orders, but we have, when following up and thinking that he might be in a certain location, we've exercised exceptional due caution, and we sent in a lot of officers. I think there's been several videos around where a lot of officers have been responding to locations. That's because we've had unverified accounts that he might be at the location, and of course, when we arrive, he's not there, and we find out it was not that person. We've had several calls come in already, but we still want the public to call in if they do believe that they see him.
Was the image clear enough, Sergeant, that you could see whether this guy had changed clothing, if he was wearing a brown hoodie? I mean, was the image clear enough?
I don't have any specific information about the image other than our investigators believe that it is him. So I don't know about clothing details. I think, Denise, you had a question?
There's still a huge police presence over near the Battery at that apartment building. You guys have been in and out of that building, but you're still at that location.
The last known location on video for him is in that area. So we still haven't had any confirmation either through video or through independent eyewitnesses that he's not in that area. So that's why we're still concentrating heavily in that area.
What was he doing in the video? Was he sneaking or just trying to look normal?
I don't have any information about his behavior in the video other than just confirmation that it was possibly him.
Cobb County ever had any interactions with him with the police department?
I don't know about his history, and even if I had criminal history, I wouldn't be able to discuss that with you. I don't know that. Don't know.
Do you know the name of that apartment building? Is it Edison? Is that the name of the building?
I don't have the name of the apartment. There have been several. I know there's several apartment complexes around here that are close enough to that area where the camera picked him up.
All right, we've been listening to Sergeant Wayne Delk of Cobb County, Georgia, give an update on this case where we have a man who shot 5 people in Atlanta, carjacked the vehicle, which then apparently came into Cobb County. As we heard from the sergeant there, they saw the suspect on video last at around 12:30. But beyond that, the folks in Cobb County don't have a lot to share with us. He can't describe the video. It's not clear if the suspect is still in the county or if they can describe anything about the vehicle or the motive of the crime. But I'm joined now by Guad Venegas, who's been watching all of this for us and who's been sort of trying to parse what information we got from that press conference, what we've heard earlier from hospital officials about the status of those victims. Guad, bring our viewers up to speed if they're just tuning in.
Garrett, we did get an understanding of the timeline of what happened. We know that, according to local authorities in Atlanta, this incident happened at about 12:08 earlier today. Now, they just informed that the vehicle entered Cobb County at about 12:30, so it would have been between 20 to 30 minutes after the shooting happened that the vehicle entered that area. Now, the shooting happened in Midtown Atlanta. That's a residential urban area. It's an arts district, also lots of hotels, lots of pedestrians in that area. Cobb County begins about 6 miles northwest of Midtown. So they believe that after the suspect exited that building, that medical center where this happened, it happened in one of the waiting areas. He then, they believe he carjacked the vehicle and then would have entered Cobb County at about 12:30, right? Now, they're also saying, Garrett, that that video was at 12:30, but they didn't see it till 2 hours later, which is when they began tweeting, Cobb County authorities began tweeting that they were looking for the suspect in that county. Now, they've said that they don't know that the suspect has left the area, so they just continue looking at certain places in Cobb County where they've had reports. But as you mentioned, they haven't been cleared of what they saw in the video. They just said that they have video of the vehicle and the suspect entering Cobb County, this area northwest of downtown Atlanta, where the shooting happened. We know that the suspect is armed and dangerous. Both the mayor and the police chiefs telling people to call 911 if they see the suspect. And we do have that photo from the security video and that medical center that people can look at, Garrett.
All right, Guad Venegas, keeping an eye on this story for us. Guad, if we get any more news on the search, bring it to us, please. And tonight, the State Department is cautioning Americans in Ukraine of a heightened threat of missile attacks. This is the first security alert the U.S. Embassy has sent out since late February. And it comes as U.S. officials say they're aware but can't confirm a stunning accusation from the Kremlin that Ukraine tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin overnight with a drone strike. The Kremlin made this claim without actually providing any evidence of it, but they say their defense system destroyed 2 drones. You can see here in this video from social media that shows an object exploding over the Kremlin today. Now, Ukraine's denying any involvement, and the Dutch government says President Zelensky is expected to speak in The Hague tomorrow about peace and justice for Ukraine. Listen to a little of Zelensky from earlier today.
We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our territory. We are defending our villages and cities.
Kyiv says this alleged incident is just an excuse for Russia to launch a new attack in Ukraine, which ironically is kind of what the Kremlin is saying here, too, in a statement writing that Russia reserves the right to take countermeasures wherever and whenever it deems appropriate. Here in the U.S., the Secretary of State is skeptical. Here's Secretary Blinken in an interview with the Washington Post.
I would take anything coming out of the Kremlin with a very large shaker of salt. So let's see. We'll see what the facts are.
Keir Simmons joins me now. And Keir, the U.S. says it didn't have any advance notice of if there was a drone attack against the Kremlin by Ukraine or by anybody else. Yeah. What more do we know about how this alleged attack took place?
Well, it's all very mysterious, isn't it, really, Garrett? I mean, the U.S. wouldn't likely be given advance notice by Ukraine, and perhaps wouldn't even say if it had been given advance notice. And targeting President Putin himself is seen by some in Washington as, frankly, something of a red line because of the danger of what kind of retaliation that might prompt. Now, in terms of these videos, and frankly, the videos are all we have. The viewers have just seen them. I mean, that's the thing that we really know about, right? These videos appeared around 2 a.m. In Moscow time, and then nothing was said by the Kremlin for around 12 hours when this really rare and unusual statement was made, suggesting it was an assassination attempt against President Putin, saying that the Kremlin's defenses had brought the drones down and threatening a retaliation. And there are those wondering why the Kremlin would choose to highlight it in this way. I mean, the statement from the Kremlin is really the thing that's made the big headlines around the world.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about that statement, because you have the Kremlin talking about retaliation here. Russia's former prime minister called for the elimination of President Zelensky. They went after Zelensky pretty clearly in the beginning of the war. Do we expect to see the war take that kind of turn again, perhaps now?
Well, listen, let me just put it this way. We're into full Kremlinology once we get past just the basics of what we know at this point, right? You know, and it's interesting to talk about. You know, there are those suggesting that, I mean, the Ukrainians are describing this as a trick, so clearly implying that this is kind of a Russian preparation to do something of what nature we don't know. There is also a Victory Day parade, a big parade in Red Square coming up in just a few days' time. There's a great tension around that. We see a change there. We don't know what. I mean, it would be extraordinary, wouldn't it, if the Ukrainians could send a drone to the Kremlin? Very embarrassing. We don't know. There's so many things we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, there's a difference between the Ukrainian government or Ukrainian partisans who might be working in Moscow. I mean, yeah, we're going to be on this one for quite a while. Keir Simmons, I appreciate your reporting. I know it's a tough one. Thank you. And the Biden administration's top immigration official, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, is announcing a 2-day trip down to the southern border, which starts tomorrow. That, as the U.S. and Mexico are today announcing a new deal in preparation for what's expected to be a massive surge of migrants across our southern border once pandemic-era restrictions known as Title 42 go away next week. This is all part of the deal. Mexico is agreeing to accept migrants turned away from the U.S. border if they are citizens of Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, or Nicaragua. At the same time, the U.S. is agreeing to take in 100,000 people from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, so long as they have family members living legally in the U.S. The preparations happening as we're seeing these big spikes in illegal migration in recent months, with more than 200,000 so-called border encounters in April alone. That's the most this year. Now, the acting Border Patrol commissioner says they expect to see as many as 10,000 people trying to cross the southern border every single day. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is in El Paso, Texas for us tonight. And Gabe, you're in an area that's obviously been hard hit, is going to be harder hit once Title 42 expires. Show us some of the scene around you there. It's hard to imagine how much worse this could even look a week from now.
Well, Garrett, you mentioned that the numbers have gone higher in April. That's after, as you know, a record-breaking year last year in terms of border encounters. And the local officials here, as you mentioned, they really think that this will get worse once Title 42 is lifted, that COVID border restriction. El Paso has declared a state of emergency. So has Laredo and Brownsville here in Texas. And part of it is what you see behind me. They're already seeing a huge influx of migrants, hundreds of them sleeping here outside of this church each night. Now, we also spoke with a local business owner, former city councilwoman as well, who says that this deployment of 1,500 active duty troops here to the southern border is too little too late, and she doesn't think it will have much of an impact. Take a listen.
It's really bad right now. I can't imagine it getting worse, but by the numbers, by the looks of it, it's going to get a lot worse. How do we transport these people? How do we shelter them? How do we feed them? And it's very frustrating. No one is helping us.
So migrant advocates that we've also spoken to here say that they don't believe that this sends the right message, this deployment of troops. So the Biden administration, Garrett, at this point is facing backlash from multiple sides, from Republicans who say this is too little, too late, to some Democrats who say that this deployment of troops, again, in their view, sends the wrong message and is not what the Biden administration promised when it was elected. They see this as a return to some of the Trump-era policies, Garrett.
Well, Gabe, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, you and I both cover politics in our other jobs here. And just how important is this kind of mix of policy prescriptions and what we're all going to witness at the border next week for the president in terms of the national politics of all this?
Well, as you know, Garrett, this is just, and as I'm hearing some activity here, of course, this is, a lot of people in this crowded area and just these several city blocks here in El Paso. But as we talk about the national political picture, it is clear that the Biden administration has no easy options here. They have, for a while now, tried to stem the flow of migration, perhaps by, throwing some resources at Central America. That hasn't apparently worked. The Republicans have, of course, been arguing that it's the lax policies in their view that is encouraging more migration. The Biden administration calling this seasonal. But at this point, Garrett, with the lifting of Title 42, they have some real questions about how they're going to deal with this influx. Secretary Mayorkas, as you said, coming to the border tomorrow as well as Friday and trying to make the case that this really should be on Congress, that he's looking for some sort of legislative fix here. But in terms of a national political picture here, leading up to the election in 2024, of course, President Biden's administration seeing this potentially as a political vulnerability and trying to find some way to deal with this influx, which by all accounts is expected next week. Some of the migrants advocates here worry about what this could mean. Could we see a crackdown? Could some of these migrants be arrested and deported? There's a lot of questions here at the border, but border communities like this one in El Paso, they need some help from the federal government, and they just don't see a way out of this at this point, Garrett.
Yeah, that much is clear. And House Republicans are rolling out their border plan next week. So you're going to see immigration very much in focus in Washington, as well as on the Texas border. Gabe Gutierrez, appreciate your reporting down there. Now, the markets are not loving this Federal Reserve and their latest interest rate hike, taking levels to the highest in 16 years and making it even harder for people who want to buy a home or take out a loan. You see the vibe on Wall Street with red across the board for the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P. It's the 10th straight interest rate hike for the Fed, all since last March, and now at 5%. It's the fastest rate since Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 came out in theaters, December 1980. Now, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says they've got a long way to get inflation to his 2% goal, not committing to another rate hike in June or a full-on pause anytime soon.
In light of these uncertain headwinds, along with monetary policy restraint we've put in place, our future policy actions will depend on how events unfold.
Brian Chung is here, and luckily for us, he speaks fluent Fed. So, Brian, can you put the chairman's comments kind of in plain English for us? What do these hikes mean today, both for the markets and for consumers?
Yeah, well, what it means is that those eye-popping mortgage rates and credit card rates are going to remain high because the Federal Reserve again raised interest rates today. As you mentioned, the 10th consecutive meeting that they've done so, this time by 0.25 percentage point. And all this is to try to take care of inflation. Now, inflation peaked at a yearly rate of about 9% in June of last year. It's since come down to about 5% as of the last read in March. But the Fed really wants to see that somewhere closer to 2%. So there's a little bit of a ways to go for the Federal Reserve, but there's some optimism that they might be able to stop hiking interest rates later on. The Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell saying in a press conference with reporters this afternoon that it seems like the Federal Reserve could, depending on how the data come in, kind of stop the interest rate hikes and perhaps stay the course for the next few meetings. We'll have to see what the numbers on jobs and what the numbers on inflation look like in the weeks to come. Garrett.
Brett, Wall Street analysts always come out with warnings, and there's one that caught our team's eye today from an investment banker who says we're at risk of a self-fulfilling prophecy, a doom loop, to borrow language from our show last night, in this idea of the regional banking crisis. Powell, by the way, isn't shying away from gloomy language. He's talked about the possibility of a mild recession. We've talked about the vibe session on this show. Does the mood match up with the data right now?
Well, here's the challenge is that actually maybe the Fed chairman sounded a little bit more optimistic than the situation in the banking sector would tell you, because he said that the banking system looks sound and resilient. But when you look at the numbers, right, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank failing in mid-March. You had First Republic just earlier this week. And Garrett, I'm keeping an eye on PacWest. This is a bank that's based out of Los Angeles. In after-hours trading, the stock is down 57% after news over the last hour that they could be seeking a buyer. So we're not past the worst of this yet, although I want to caution that PacWest is about a $40 billion bank, so much smaller than the First Republic bank that we saw fail earlier this week. But look, this is not over, and this is something the government's going to want to keep an eye on as, again, we continue to feel the tremors from the earthquake that was the Silicon Valley Bank failure just about 2 months ago.
Brian, is this the kind of thing where we could be seeing the PacWest story develop overnight like we've seen in some of these other bank takeovers, where tonight we're talking about tremors and tomorrow we're talking about JP Morgan or Bank of America just bought themselves a regional bank?
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. I'm going to keep my phone on throughout the rest of this night. But, I mean, the story here is certainly very similar to what we saw with First Republic, where as they were starting to see issues here, you started to see investors start to dump the stock. And then after that, you heard these rumors of the bank potentially seeking strategic options, which, by the way, is the same language that we're hearing from these reports about what PacWest wants to do. If they can't find what they call an open buyer, which would just be some bank coming in buying it, if the government has to get involved like they did with First Republic, that would certainly be of concern, Garrett.
Right, you get one of those Washington shotgun marriages. All right, Brian Chung with his phone on all night long. Thank you for this reporting. And tonight, Serbian officials say a deadly shooting at an elementary school in the country's capital was pre-planned, with the teen suspect having made a list of who to target and writing out how to get in and out of the building. 8 students and 1 security guard died in this attack. 6 other kids and a teacher were also hurt. Now, we know the suspect is a 13-year-old student at the school. He is in custody and will be placed in a psychiatric institution, according to Serbia's president. Officials say the boy brought 2 of his dad's guns to school and 4 Molotov cocktails. The boy's father and mother have also been arrested. What we don't know yet is the motive. This country now entering a period of mourning in the aftermath of this tragedy, the likes of which an Eastern European country like Serbia hasn't seen in years. Hallie joins me now. And Hallie, the suspected shooter actually can't face criminal charges there, as I understand it, because of his age. But we know his parents have been arrested. What more do we know about what all happened here?
Hey, Garrett, that's right. Well, according to Serbian law, a minor under the age of 14 can't be held criminally responsible for their actions. But Serbia's president is now saying, in light of what happened this morning, that the government should take into consideration lowering the age of accountability from 14 to 12 because the shooter may have known that he was too young to be prosecuted. The president also said that the 13-year-old boy who went on this rampage killing 9 people is going to be placed in a psychiatric institute, and said that he didn't show any remorse for what he'd done. As you'd mentioned, both his mother and father have been arrested, and one or both of them could be facing criminal charges for their son's actions. Now, according to Serbia's Interior Ministry, the boy bought the 2 guns from home. The guns belonged to his father, who kept them locked up in a safe which had a code. but obviously the suspected shooter had the code and managed to get hold of those guns.
And Hallie, Serbia's president said today is one of the toughest days in the country's modern history. Mass shootings in this region are extremely rare, are they not?
They're very rare. The last mass shooting in that country was in 2017 when an ex-veteran killed 13 people. Now, although there are a lot of guns in Serbia because they were left over from the Kosovo War, there are also very tight gun laws in the country, and the government has offered amnesties for people to hand in illegal firearms. So this is a very rare occasion that's rocked the country.
All right, Ali Aruzzi, thank you for that reporting. And coming up, it's being called a milestone, decades in the making. The world's first vaccine just approved by the FDA. Plus, JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, is going to be deposed. What it has to do with Jeffrey Epstein, and that's coming up in the 5 things. Stay with us. National test scores out today show that students' knowledge of U.S. history drops to its lowest point since the tests started in 1994. These history and civics tests are given every 4 years. They're called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or simply the nation's report card. The new scores continue a nearly decade-long decline among 8th graders, dropping 9 points since 2014. This all comes as the history curriculum itself is becoming a political flashpoint across the U.S., with some states banning books and debates raging on how issues like race and gender identity ought to be taught in the context of our national history. The U.S. Secretary of Education said that the scores, quote, affirm the profound impact the pandemic had on student learning in subjects beyond math and reading, and called out politicians for censoring educators. Rahema Ellis joins me now. Earlier this year, we saw that the scores for math and reading, they also hit almost 20-year lows. The pandemic was largely blamed for that, too. And now we've got these history test scores. Can you just give us a little more detail and context about how bad this situation is and how these things are related, right? I mean, if you can't read well, you probably can't learn history either.
Garrett, you're absolutely right. You know the old saying, reading is fundamental, and it certainly is in terms of our understanding of anything. You can read a word, but if you can't grasp the inner meanings of that word, it becomes very difficult to communicate that sense to people. Take a look at what these history and civic scores turned out to be. We've got a full screen for you. The test results show that a 40% drop in terms of the students who were below basic in history, 40% of them, and 31% of those 8th graders were below basic understanding in civics. This is something that the commissioner who administers these tests say should be of a concern to everyone in this country. Whether you have a child in elementary or middle school or school at all, these children are not always going to be in the 8th grade. Ultimately, they will graduate and they will be the citizens of tomorrow who will have to make decisions about how our country is run. Garrett?
Yeah, that's right. Future voters. Rahema, this comes at a really divisive time in our country when we talk about how history should be allowed to be taught in classrooms. And I understand you heard from an 8th grade teacher who's walking through some of these concerns.
She really is. And she talked about how it's a daily struggle for her. And one of the struggles, she says, is because she's competing with devices like this. Mm-hmm. And that is a device that's taken the attention away from what's happening in the classroom and or also leading her children and students to a lot of misinformation. Take a listen to her thoughts on this.
Our country is dependent on having educated people who can think critically and think for themselves and be lifelong learners. So it does worry me that, you know, we're not seeing that critical thinking as much. You know, it's still there, but it's a struggle every day.
The other thing that she pointed out is that it's so difficult to think about doing something on the political structure in terms of changing this, Garrett, and you know that every day being up on the Hill, because studies show that 90% of parents in this country think that their kids are proficient and above, but the scores do not bear witness to that. It's very challenging.
Math doesn't lie. Rahema Ellis, thank you for your reporting on this. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, an update on those bodies found in Oklahoma earlier this week. Officials just in the last hour or so said all 7 people killed died of gunshot wounds, and that they think one of the dead, Jesse McFadden, killed the other 6 people before turning the gun on himself. McFadden was a convicted rapist who was scheduled to appear in court on child pornography charges on the day of the killing. Number 2, the FDA just approved an RSV vaccine for people aged 60 and older today. This is a big deal because researchers have been trying to make a vaccine for this for like 6 decades. The CDC still has to recommend the vaccine before it becomes available to the public at large. RSV is usually mild for most people, but the infection does kill between 6,000 and 10,000 seniors each year. Number 3, a source told CNBC's Eamon Javers today that JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon is set to be deposed later this month as part of a lawsuit accusing the huge bank of benefiting from sex trafficking by late money manager Jeffrey Epstein. The government of the U.S. Virgin Islands, along with one of Epstein's accusers, brought the suit. The bank has denied any wrongdoing. Number 4, exclusive reporting from NBC News. Weight loss company Jenny Craig says it will completely shut down its operations in the next few days. In an email to employees, the company said that it was going to close due to its, quote, inability to secure additional financing. The company hasn't responded to requests for comment. And number 5, for the first time, scientists have caught a star swallowing a planet in one big gulp. You are looking at a computer render of what it might have looked like. The planet was apparently about the size of Jupiter, and the star was at the end of its life, and it just started to expand, absorbing the orbiting planet. Astronomers say this is a preview of what's eventually going to happen to Earth when our sun finally dies, but don't sweat it. It's like 5 billion years from now. Coming up, weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy are getting super popular, but now a bunch of states are threatening legal action against pharmacies. We'll explain why after the break. Plus, the huge security operation happening in London just days before King Charles' coronation. That's later in The Global. A new study shows a potentially promising Alzheimer's drug may actually slow the progress of the disease for those who have it in its early stages. Data shows an experimental Eli Lilly drug slowing the decline in memory by 35% compared to people who didn't take it. And that's a pretty big deal for the more than 10% of folks aged 65 and older who battle Alzheimer's daily. But this drug is not without its risks. It can cause brain swelling and bleeding that can be serious and even fatal in rare cases. 3 people died in the drug's trial from these side effects, and the FDA previously rejected approval of the drug because they wanted to see more results. Eli Lilly said today it plans to reapply for FDA approval within the next few months. Dr. Akshay Syal joins me now. So, Doc, what would you advise people who have Alzheimer's or their family members and they're trying to weigh the risks and benefits of a drug like this?
Good evening, Garrett. You know, just taking a step back here, this is really exciting news. This is another class of drugs, antibody drugs that target amyloid in the brain that have been shown to work in recent months. This is really welcome news for the 6 million Americans out there battling Alzheimer's, which, by the way, is projected to increase to 13 million, more than double by 2030. And so to answer your question, you know, what would I tell a patient who's wondering, how do I balance the risks and benefits? Look, everything in every, drug and medicine has risks and benefits. Just to give you an example, ibuprofen that many people take over the counter has risks of stomach ulcers. And we always weigh the risks and benefits in medicine. And I think with this one, when you're talking about more time of your loved ones to go to the grocery store and drive a car on their own, things that you and I probably take for granted, when you're talking with Alzheimer's patients and you're giving them more time to do these things on their own, I imagine a lot of people are going to opt for that additional time and weigh the risk to that as well.
Alzheimer's has been so tricky to treat, right? There was another drug that was a subject of a congressional inquiry that found the FDA's process in approving it was, I think in their term, rife with irregularities, not anything you ever want to read when you're talking about a drug that deals with your brain. Why has finding a safe and effective treatment for this disease been seemingly so challenging? I mean, is it just because we're dealing with the brain?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And to give you a little history lesson here, so a lot of the theories around Alzheimer's disease are, there's these plaques that build up in the brain that are causing memory loss. And so what's happened for decades is we've targeted these plaques, but we haven't seen improvement in the actual memory symptoms. And what you're seeing with this new class of drugs is we can remove the plaque and actually see some improvement in cognitive decline or more time doing those things we talked about, going to the grocery store and driving a car. And so that's kind of the reason we've seen so much trouble getting a treatment for Alzheimer's. But what you're seeing, Garrett, now is FDA Commissioner Robert Califf and former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb both expressing excitement that we might be finally turning the page. We might finally be able to get a treatment to those 6 million Americans out there battling Alzheimer's.
Huge for those 6 million and huge for their families. Dr. Akshay Syal, thank you for that.
Anytime.
And Tonight, states are threatening to crack down on copycat versions of super in-demand diabetes and weight loss drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. More and more states saying they might take legal action against pharmacies that make or dispense unauthorized versions of these meds. At least 4 states already restrict the manufacturing of these imitation drugs over safety concerns. Regulators in Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, and West Virginia say they are aware that some pharmacies are using a different form of semaglutide. I will screw that up every time I read it. It's the active ingredient in both Ozempic and Wegovy that's not approved by the FDA. Now, there's been a shortage of drugs like Ozempic for patients with diabetes who really need it, going back to last August, according to the FDA. NBC's Berkeley Loveless Jr. has been following this story, and I know can pronounce the active ingredient in that drug better than I can. So, Berkeley, people want this drug so badly, they're taking, essentially not a counterfeit version, but basically a mocked-up version from compound pharmacies to fill the demand. What's happening at these compound pharmacies? I mean, this is not something that's happening at your local CVS.
Yeah, so to explain, compound pharmacies play a really important role. So they make tailor-made medications. So say someone is allergic to a medication, they can basically make a version of that medication that doesn't include the drug ingredient that make the person have a reaction. And so during a shortage time, these compounding pharmacies can also make brand name drugs. And so during this shortage, these companies have been making semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. But now some of these pharmacies have actually been using a cheaper form of this drug called semaglutide sodium salt, which hasn't been tested by the FDA, but it is more available and cheaper, and so there's some safety concerns with that.
Now, safety concerns, but is it clear if any consumers have actually been harmed by these different versions of these drugs? I mean, why do we think this crackdown is happening now?
Yeah, so it's not clear whether any patients have been harmed, and also experts have said that, there are salt versions of medications that are approved in the U.S. and that do not, are safe. The issue is that this hasn't been tested. This version of this drug has not been tested, so they don't know whether there's any safety concerns with that. Also, it is during a shortage, they're allowed to make use the approved version of this medication, but not any other alternative form. So there's that concern as well. And so now they're saying that they're going to take legal action. So far, no legal action has been taken by any of these states so far, but that remains to be seen.
All right, Berkeley Loveless Jr., thank you for your reporting and your excellent pronunciation of that drug. NBC covers hundreds of international stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to all of them, our Forward Desk has thankfully done it for you. Here are some of the things they're keeping an eye on in a segment we call The Global. From Italy, more than 100 people were arrested today across Europe and South and Central America. It's a big crackdown on one of Italy's most powerful organized crime groups. The EU's law enforcement agency called it the, quote, largest ever coordinated hit against Italian organized crime. Interesting word choice there. They said the group is responsible for a lot of Europe's cocaine trade. Out of Brazil, police searched former President Bolsonaro's home today and took his phone. This is part of an investigation into allegedly fake COVID vaccine records that might have let him get around pandemic travel restrictions, including in the United States. Bolsonaro said today that he didn't take the vaccine, and he never said otherwise, and that he never needed vaccination records to get into the U.S. And from the UK, early this morning, horse-drawn carriages and hundreds of soldiers marching through the streets of London as the military rehearses for the coronation of King Charles. The big day is Saturday. The best day to watch it without the crowds was apparently overnight. When we come back, there's a ton of controversy around Alabama's prison system. What experts say is what's being done amounts to torture. That's coming up in tonight's Original. We now want to bring you today's Original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping an eye on. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis just signed a bill that will expand the death penalty in Florida to include child rapists. It sets up a likely Supreme Court battle because the law goes against a 2008 decision stopping states from using the death penalty for child rape if the victim didn't die. Now, this all comes as other states are struggling with executions, including Alabama, which is looking into a new method of carrying out the death penalty after a series of botched executions there. Dasha Burns has more.
Alabama's prison system is generating a lot of controversy after trying and failing to execute 2 death row prisoners last year.
I'm gonna keep on
are here to confront the narrative that everything is okay.
Those botched attempts led to a 3-month pause on execution warrants.
There was an issue around establishing what's called intravenous access.
Some experts and activists say the state's failures on lethal injection amount to torture.
Both of them describe a very terrifying experience.
But Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall disagrees.
Cold-blooded convicted killer complains about the prodding and poking of a small IV line. Really?
Now, with the execution moratorium lifted, death row inmates are more afraid of surviving than they are of dying. Kenneth Smith is convicted of a murder for hire in 1988. On his execution day, Smith says he was strapped to a table for more than 3 hours, sometimes hanging upside down.
This is a free call from an incarcerated individual at Alabama Department of Corrections.
We spoke to one man who lives alongside those survivors, a death row inmate who's a member of the activist group Project Hope to Abolish the Death Penalty. He asked to remain anonymous, fearing retaliation by prison staff.
They didn't kill Kenny physically back there in that death chamber, but emotionally and mentally, they killed him.
Alan Miller was convicted of murdering 3 of his co-workers in 1999, according to court filings. Miller spared not by the courts, but the clock, after the execution team struggled to access his veins and start an IV line, too.
He had a clear view of the death chamber. After he came back, he was in that cell about 3 days, and then he begged them to move him because he couldn't stand to look out the window and see it.
The Alabama Department of Corrections declined NBC News' request for comment. In a letter lifting the moratorium, the Alabama Department of Corrections said it hired more medical personnel, practiced its procedures, and succeeded in asking the state Supreme Court to lift the one-day deadline it had to carry out an execution.
Justice for our families!
Critics say the state should have commissioned an external review.
If the state is saying, just trust us, well, they've not earned that trust.
A majority of Americans support the death penalty, even as some states have trouble carrying it out. Arizona is reviewing its execution process. Idaho recently legalized the firing squad as the state struggles to find the drugs for lethal injections.
There is really no death penalty in Idaho now unless we allow the firing squad.
But back in Alabama, they're exploring other methods too, joining Oklahoma and Mississippi in legalizing death by nitrogen, a method that's never been used before.
This nitrogen protocol, they call it, this is an experimental process.
All a matter of life and death for many inmates sitting on death row across the country. Dasha Burns, NBC News.
We'll be right back. The Super Mario Brothers movie just became the 10th animated film ever to pass $1 billion globally at the box office. It's the first movie to do so in 2023. So the question is, did you pay to see it? Because apparently not everybody did. Why? Well, because people are apparently posting the entire movie to Twitter, with one account getting something like 9 million views. This video was up for days. Now, it has since been taken down, so don't go search for it. And we should note that the Mario movie was made by our sister company, Universal Pictures, so, definitely don't go search for it. Now, it's not the only feature-length film to get uploaded to the platform. Someone also posted the entire Avatar sequel on Twitter. Now, that's apparently because of 2 changes made by Twitter owner Elon Musk. First, the rules now let people who are verified put 60-minute videos up on the platform. And second, he reportedly fired all of the people in charge of taking down videos that violate copyright laws. Joined now by Fandango managing editor Eric Davis. So, Eric, the film industry always takes piracy super seriously. I can remember all those warnings before movies about not shooting video and not posting and all that kind of thing. But if movies are ending up not just on the dark web, but on your Twitter feed, that is a major, major problem for the industry, is it not?
I mean, piracy is never good. I don't think it's good for anyone. Who wants to watch a film that's embedded in a tweet? First of all, I don't want to experiment like that, and it's not good for the artist. It is stealing. So I mean, piracy all around is not good for the industry, and there's always other ways that people are pirating films. I mean, going back years and years and years. And so Mario's doing pretty well, though. It's over $1 billion worldwide. It is the highest grossing film of the year. It is the highest grossing animated film since 2019. It is the third Illumination film to cross $1 billion. And so the film's doing well. And last I checked, Avatar is over $2 billion worldwide. So both of those doing quite well.
Yeah, James Cameron's family's not going hungry because of the Twitter video. But let's talk a little bit more about the Mario movie for a bit, because, the fact that it has done so well, now granted, it's some of the most well-known IP on the planet probably. Does that tell us anything about the box office futures for this year? Obviously, the movie industry desperately needs a good year after just getting clobbered during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I think it tells you that people are still going to the movies, right? And not only are they going, but they're showing up for the stuff that they really want to see, and they're showing up big time. I think family films was a big question heading into 2023, and Mario is proving that, yes, families want to get out when to watch films that they want to go see. And I think Illumination is doing a really good job right now of making not just films that do well at the box office, but making all-timers at the box office. So I think that's great to see. But we have a Fast and Furious movie on the way. We have a Guardians of the Galaxy, a Mission Impossible, an Indiana Jones, Transformers. Like, when I say all of those titles, they're all global hits. And I think really that
could be a very big year for the movie business. Eric Davis, thank you. And that's a wrap for this edition of Hallie Jackson Now. Top Story picks up our coverage.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.